Sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish the same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish the same fake stories without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media platforms push their own personal bias and attention control to be exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The following is a pattern interruption of your regularly scheduled brainwashing program.
Welcome to the Reality Operating System. I'm Peter Duke, and Tracy Connors and I are joined today by Lauren, one of the best researchers in the whole election thing that's going on right now.
Well,
how you doing, Lauren?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're good. So we don't have to call you by your screen name?
You can call me Elle or Lauren or some bitch. Honestly, either one. All the above. It all works.
Isn't that just the B word? Isn't that just used by your detractors, though?
I just
not
figured,
if you take it back and you own it, right?
That's kind of. I figured it serves two purposes. It is a smell test because if someone's offended by that name, they're not going to like me anyways, and they're already going to call me a bitch. So I might as well just own the name outright. So that's kind of
see and look.
Hello.
And right, exactly. So I have a question, because it seems to me that there's two kinds of researchers on the internet. There's like really like serious people, they head down and they're brow furrowed all the time. And then there's the ones that are doing research half the time and shit posting the other half the time. And I was wondering, what do you think the difference is there?
Well, as someone who does a lot of shit posting myself, I think for me, I have to not take everything too seriously all the time, or else I will go insane. And I think of Twitter kind of as a job because I'm sponsored by people, and that's how I afford food for my cat and for me. So on the one hand, I want to show up and bring my A game, but on the other hand, it can't be a job all the time. And I think it's fun and it's good to cut up and blow off a little bit of steam and post memes.
It's a job with no HR department, right?
Definitely. Thank God.
Yeah, a lot of times when I find myself shit posting, before I hit the post button, I'm thinking, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of it when I click on it? I think it's a dopamine hit. You get a little vicarious thrill because I think that you envision heads exploding. Whoa.
Sorry.
That's all right.
You envision heads exploding. So the three of us worked together this week. A friend of ours. Now, can we mention our friend who put us together?
I don't know. I don't know if he's watching or what. We'll just call him MB.
Okay, MB, yeah. We all put our initials. Anyway, he brought us all together and said, hey, we should make a video.
And so we did.
And so we did. And Lauren just kind of vomited about 500 video clips into the stream in about 5 minutes.
No.
And
well, that's not the whole story, right? You put out the call, Lauren, on Twitter to help find footage.
Well, I did do that too. Just pretty much every time any sort of research is going on, I kind of post it as I go on Twitter, just because we always, I say we, it's me and the fellas and the girl, we just collaborate with each other and build on each other's research. And that's usually how we get stuff done in 5 minutes. So it's helpful.
But then Twitter came down with the hammer on you again, seemingly for doing that.
Nah. Once you've lost one, you've lost them all. It's all right. The first one was such a gut punch, but at this point, it is what it is.
And when was that? And what do you think was the offending thing that you did besides being effective?
Well, so their official reason when they banned my first account that was nearing 120,000 followers, rest in peace, was I made a joke where I said, unless I don't even remember the exact joke, but it was something like, if I die in any other circumstance other than on a jet ski, like, you need to investigate it. So, and they're like, they said I was glorifying suicide. So that was why I got banned. And then most recently, it was actually kind of my mistake. I'm clearly not using my phone number on Twitter anymore. So I was using Google Voice, and there's a setting you have to toggle off, and I didn't do that. And so if you don't toggle off that setting, you get stuck in like a loop of hell to get out of your account. And so they normally, because they'll normally just text you like a code and you just get right in. But I guess they can tell if you have a Google Voice account and they want to call you. So they caught me. But it's all right.
And there's no way for you to answer when they call you on your Google Voice account?
So if you have it's like a call filter on, it will, I guess, kick you to their voicemail. It's very weird. And so I would answer, and then it would go, "They've hung up. Bye." I mean, literally. So it's like, and it's not like I still am holding. I mean, I don't think it's ever going to happen, but I'm still holding out. Sorry, here comes my cat. Hey.
We allow guests.
Hello, come on. Just creep it in. But I'm still holding out like just a sliver of hope that I might get my account back. But I mean, I really seriously doubt it. But I don't want to draw too much attention to like appealing.
Right. But for anybody on our stream who doesn't know how you came to be in Twitter's crosshairs in the first place, it's because of Maidengate, right? Do you want to set that up?
It was indeed, yeah. Sorry, Kitty. No, it's not. It's not your time. This is my cat. Her name is Little Cat. Get down. Go.
It's very original.
Well, I found her at a Burger King when I was in college, and I didn't want to keep her because I don't, I'm allergic to cats. Get down. Oh my God, get down. Get down. Sorry, my Southern's coming out. Don't get. Sorry. I'm clearly not I'm not on shows very often. What were we talking about?
We're talking about Maidengate and how you launched that.
Okay. Right. So that all started with just encouraging people to check their ballot registration and whether or not a ballot had been cast, because someone in my family had that happen to them, and then a few other people corroborated and were actually, it was legitimate. So we're like, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. Let's look into it. And so we did. And we were trending #1 for a while, which, like, bucket list kind of moment. But then I was taking a nap the next day. I had so much adrenaline. I didn't sleep for like 2 days just because I was like, this is the moment we're going to, save the Republic. And so I didn't sleep. And so finally, like 3 o'clock the next day, I lay down in bed and take like a 2-hour nap. And when I wake up, I guess while I was asleep, they were like, sniped my account. So I wake up and I've got all these messages like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, I don't even know what's happened. What's happened?
Oh, that's sad. So, but just for people who don't know, is that those people did start checking, and thousands of people started figuring out that there were maiden name registrations that for people that it didn't map to, or they were double mapping. Can you explain how that was working?
So it started out with a maiden name. That was the, what led to the initial kind of curiosity. But really, it's anywhere you've ever lived and you've been registered to vote, male or female. If you've had a name change and you've lived in the same place, you could, basically anywhere you've ever lived under any name, you could still be potentially an active voter. And it turns out really all it takes to request a ballot is like a last name and a birthday, and in some states. So it really doesn't take that much. So someone can, like, you think before the election, we were seeing, people would be like 5 or 6 ballots showed up at my house for like one name. And it makes you think, well, maybe someone was like kind of spamming ballot requests and just hoping they might be able to snatch one out of your mailbox when you weren't looking. So, bye, kitty. Oh my God.
Well, it certainly seems to like that happened a lot.
It did. Well, Steven Crowder I mean, he's not a maiden, but he posted. Oh my God.
Are we sure?
Are we sure? He hasn't
Well-
pulled a Lauren Southern and declared, because he lives in Canada, or he's
No,
Canadian.
he's in Michigan, I think now, or
Okay.
maybe no, he's in Texas.
Okay, but
No,
is
I
he
told him
Canadian or
that.
is he American?
He is Canadian.
So he could be. He could have a maiden name.
How is that? Do the men-
Because in Canada you can declare your gender. You can declare your gender.
right.
So
I think you can do that here too.
Yes, but you get it on official documentation in Canada. Because what did Lauren Southern declare? Did
Lauren
she get a
Southern,
tax helicopter?
Lauren Southern's driver's license says male.
Hmm.
Although I think she lives in Australia now, and they weren't too hip to that. But we'll see.
No. Yeah, not a good move going to Australia. That's where they come arrest you if you're trying to put together an anti-lockdown protest.
Well, that's
Anyway.
isn't that what the guy Zuby did that too? He like declared himself female for like
20 minutes to break that weightlifting record. Yeah.
Right.
No, Lauren actually got it done on her official documentation from the state. And he's right. Yeah, Puerto Rico does have 2 last names. Most Latin countries have that. You take your father and your mother's last name as yours. Anyway,
So we through this video. I am getting an echo now.
I know. I just turned on my speaker, but I don't know if it's me or not. I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Can you turn it down?
you just turned it down. You have to wait for her to talk to see if it went away or not, right?
Yeah. So talk to
They
your
go away?
catters.
Cat. Oh my God. She's being
All right.
so neat. She never wants to sit in my lap until I can.
Of course.
Come on, buddy.
So
know.
what were we talking about, Tracy?
We were talking about, so Lauren kind of blew up over this Maiden Gate thing, built this huge following, has a whole bunch of researchers that are ready to go. And so this week we had
I
our
had
buddy
followers
MB
before
come
that.
to us and say, hey, can you guys throw together a video? I watched this Scott Adams Periscope this morning, and he had this really powerful monologue about we don't need to find fraud. All you need to know is that the election counting was done behind closed doors because
not
people were
transparent.
bullied and it's not transparent and blah, blah, blah. So he said, can you go find instances of people getting thrown out of polling places, people getting bullied, et cetera, et cetera. So Lauren hit the go button on her Twitter feed and said, send me every video you can find.
And
Yeah.
and literally within a few minutes, we had dozens of videos to go through, and we started throwing them at the editor. And Tracy and I took turns trying to find clips that were appropriate in music. We tried a few different music cues, and we got something that worked. And then we tried to beat up the ask at the end, and and we threw it out into the world. I am still getting an echo.
I
Maybe
don't think it's me because I have my volume turned down so low. Maybe it is though. I can put on headphones and see if it works.
could we
There's
try?
again echoing on the stream.
They say that.
That's what I'm seeing. Somebody saying echo in the comments
Yeah.
badly.
Yeah. So if we could try the headphones, I think that would be good, because I'm not doing it.
Well,
One moment, please.
La-di-da. So yeah. So we
they're
finished.
saying it's just on you, Peter.
It's just on me.
You're the only one that's echoing.
Okay.
Well, my voice is coming out of Lauren's computer and going back into the microphone. So yes, it would be me
gotcha.
echoing. So.
All right. Everybody's happy now.
All right, great. So yeah, so we gave it to Ali because the we got the video made and we thought, okay, great. What do we do with this? And I think Ali is leading the charge on putting bodies on the streets. And one of the issues with all of these kind of counterintelligence operations that are going on right now is that the effect of them is to freeze people in front of their phones or their computers and think that if they're retweeting something that they're actually affecting the world. And it turns out that, if Dave Rubin gets a few hundred people to show up in Sherman Oaks in front of a restaurant, or Ollie gets a few thousand people to show up on the steps of a state capitol someplace, politicians pay more attention. And so at this point, doing what we can, in our research group, what we're trying to do is we're trying to feed evidence into all of the different legal actions that are going on right now. But at the same time, we're, because Tracy and I have this media background and a few other people in the chat, then we decided that we wanted to repurpose this stuff and make a video. So that's what we did. But the end point of the video can't be confirmation bias. That is, hey, look, we're right, you're wrong, because that kind of media makes you feel better, but it doesn't actually change anything. So our intent was to steer traffic towards Stop the Steal, which is where they are using the money and the names that go into that site to create direct action. And direct action is the Washington, D.C. buzzword for putting people on the street. Because if you use a term like boots on the ground, like Ali did last week, he got banned for 12 hours for inciting violence because he used the term boots on the ground, which somebody interpreted as a military reference. Pitchfork sales are going to go through the roof. Yes, I do have my pitchfork. It's right there. And I tweeted out this week the full kit on how you do that. It's actually a 5-prong manure fork. It's spray painted black. It's got a quad rail on it. And I've got a laser on the bottom and a scope on the top, I didn't go out and buy them. I just had extra ones laying around. So that's the assault pitchfork, because we all know that assault pitchforks are much scarier than regular pitchforks.
I still think you need a bump stock for it.
Your tactical pitchfork.
Yeah.
It is a tactical pitchfork. So anyway.
But yeah, so that video as of now is closing in on 1 million views, as far as we can tell, because it's pretty hard to keep track of. But
yeah, because
we'll just say 1 million.
We spread it out a few places. Ali, when he thanked us last night, said he thought it was probably closer to 2 million. And then our director friend who we helped us get motivated to go make that thing, he wants to know where Ali came up with the 2 million. And it's like, I think he put his finger in the air and said,
well, he could also look at the analytics on the tweet that he pushed out with it.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
Well, so Twitter and YouTube, and so they will actually remove view count from stuff just to make it look, I guess, less popular. So that's not unheard of. It's psychological warfare.
Well, I found that John Oliver clip last week where he was found, or 2 weeks ago, where he found the where he said that Trump was right. He uses those words. He's just right. I don't know if you saw that clip.
I didn't.
But I pinned it as my pinned tweet, and it got over. It was up to about 600,000 views when it disappeared. And it wasn't a video that I made. It was just a clip that I took where John Oliver was talking about how using voting machines leads to voter fraud, and Donald Trump is just right. Disappeared. Just disappeared off my. The tweet just disappeared.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Big time.
Yeah, so Lauren, I'm a little bit interested. I think I heard your red pill story because you used to be a lefty. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I made a little composite yesterday on Twitter of just the nonsense I would write and share on Facebook, of all places, back in the day. I was out of college, and I got an English degree because my parents didn't tell me not to. So I was a bartender in college, and then was the manager at the place for a few years after college, just because I enjoyed it, and why not? And so I didn't really enter the real world for a while, and all my friends were Democrat. I wouldn't even call myself a Democrat. I was just stupid, and I didn't know anything. I literally did not know what I was talking about 24/7, but I would get really angry at people if they would try to tell me I didn't know what I was talking about. So that was my lib story. It was sad.
And what took you out of that?
Okay, so I've told the story a few times. So I like to. It's funny because I can kind of track the progress of this. One of the last, I guess, lefty sounding post I ever put on Facebook was, our game show host president is tweeting about football players while Puerto Rico lies in tatters. And I'm talking about President Trump, and they had told everyone like he didn't send any help for Puerto Rico. He's out golfing or whatever. Turns out he sent like 3/4 of their total GDP for the year or something. I mean, like an insane amount of money he sent to Puerto Rico. And they were like hoarding the supplies, and they found like 2 warehouses and a runway full of supplies. And you mentioned John Oliver earlier. John Oliver literally used to be my news. I think that's why I hate him so much now. Because like, well, he does like the non sequitur, and you mistake that for intelligence. He goes like, Trump's trying to pass a bill. That's like a squirrel trying to ride a bicycle. You can't ride a bike, squirrel. Ha ha ha. And then everyone laughs and feels so smart. And you realize he didn't actually make a point. So I get really mad that like I used to be that way. That's 100% how I used to think. I was like, oh, well, you like, poked fun or made a quip, so you won. Which,
he wound up doing a response video to the clip that I posted.
Did he really?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Yeah. A lot of nonsense.
Trump 2020?
A lot of nonsense. It was like, I was taken out of context. Of course, I didn't, if you had watched it to the end, you would have seen blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you said he was right because he was right.
He takes people out of context all the time.
That's the whole show, right?
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he has no response then. But so you see all this stuff of Puerto Rico and how, there were supplies.
Right. So I honestly, I wish I could find who managed to like squeak this through like my very like narrow worldview, because I saw that. And so I was thinking like, holy crap, this is, I remember like feeling a pit of dread in my stomach because I was like, they're going to be writing good things about Trump now. I don't want to see good things about Trump. But then I didn't see anything. And then that actually like made me stop wanting to be mad at seeing good things about Trump. And I was like, well, I don't see anything. And it was enough to kind of like, once you see the like crack in the reality, like it's done. You can't unsee it. And then you just kind of keep realizing how much is just nonsense that you thought you knew. I used to be very matter of fact for being a total moron. So,
right. But it's just such an extreme. Yeah. Like I wasn't even engaged. I didn't know what was going on. I just accepted opinions that other people gave me. And now you're so far into this. I see the stuff that you tweet about. And I'm like, oh, you went real far. You took the whole bottle of red pills.
Oh,
right. Yeah. Cite your sources or STFU.
GTFO, but close.
GTFO.
It works. I mean, you put together a video about the Great Reset. Like, you know who Klaus Schwab is. You know what all those guys are up to now. That's a huge turnaround.
I know what they're all up to.
You've come to the right place, my dear.
My people. No, see, the worst part is though, you cannot like. I forget because all I talk to people, internet people, 24/7. And so the other day I went to go get a haircut, and it started like kind of. She's like, "So what have you been up to?" I was like, "Just like, oh, like I have a blog." I tried to like keep it. I was like, "I have a blog," and she's like, "What do you write about?" I was like, "Oh no." Like keep it simple. It's like I did an investigation into like Ghislaine Maxwell, and she's like, "What did you do?" I don't know. Never mind. I'm an accountant.
Well, it's funny because you're going through this, and it seems to be like an ongoing situation that Tracy and I keep running into. And we use the term scaffolding, which is that in order for people to understand something at one level, they have to have kind of a base. They have to, they have to have an entryway into it in order to be able to understand it. Otherwise, when you start talking to them about the way that things really are, then they just look at you like you're completely out of your mind.
Yeah, you can't say the global technocracy is coming and they want us all to be enslaved and not have cars anymore, and they're going to kill us with this and that. And this whole thing is,
get in the pod.
Yeah, you got to take them up the ladder to get them there. Can't start there.
Yeah. There might be issues with that stabby thing that they want to put in your arm. That they haven't talked to you about yet. And it'll be a New York Times headline a year from now, but they won't be able to put the genie back in the bottle. So,
and it's a case by case basis kind of thing. Like, look at what it was that it took you to wake up. You had to come to that yourself. It wasn't somebody waking you and shaking you.
No, because I used to be that, because most of my family is conservative. So I was that person at Thanksgiving that would, start the fights, and they would try to explain it to me, and they'd be like, "No, Lauren, listen, you like this is," and I'm like, "No, you don't even." You just don't like women and fascism. Like, I didn't even know what I was talking about. I would just say, like, I literally up until about 2 months ago didn't actually know what fascism was, but I used that word a lot back in the day. So like, it's sad.
So where do you think that you learned what your default definition of fascism was before you figured out what it really was?
Honestly, so I don't know if you can tell, but I wasn't very cool in high school. So I just, like, when I went to college, I managed to, like, get a huge group of friends, and I had no idea, like, I was socially, like, stunted, we'll say. And so I just took on the personality of everyone around me, trying to, like, just say the stuff that they would say and, like, emulate, because I was like, I had friends for once in my life. Like, I played clarinet and had, like, no boyfriend until I was like 20. So I was like happy to just like have people around. So I took on everyone else's personality, and that was actually something that I really had to, like, dig down for this one. But I realized, like, I did not have original thoughts or emotions or feelings about anything. And it wasn't just politics, it was about anything. I was like, what do I think about that? And I was like, I don't know, and I don't think I can bring myself to think about what I think about. Like, it took a couple of years to, like, undo that psychological damage. I'm not even kidding. So it's really weird how you can train yourself to be a totally different human.
Well, that's what makes me think of the movie. Whenever people tell me stories like this, I think of They Live, the John Carpenter movie. It's a meme. It's Roddy Piper, and he's got the sunglasses, and he takes them off, and he can see that the world is controlled by lizard people, and then he puts them back on again. You know what I'm talking? The meme I'm talking about.
It's like a building or something that he's looking at.
It's a movie called They Live.
I don't watch movies.
Right. It's pretty. I recommend this one. It's kind of a B movie. It's like not a great. It's not great, but the messaging in it is so good because basically the world. It's supposed to. I think it was made in the 90s, and
either that or the late 80s. I've never seen it either. I get the meme.
I made myself watch it about 3 months ago, maybe longer than that. But he's an unemployed construction worker, and he's in Los Angeles, and the economy has collapsed, and everybody is on. They don't tell you, and and so he's standing in a line to get a job, and he gets a job working on this construction site, and he's homeless. He's living in a big homeless encampment, and he notices that there's this weird stuff going on in this house that's across the street from the construction project, and so he goes and he looks in a window and he crawls in the place, and he finds boxes and boxes of these sunglasses. Okay. And he puts on a pair of these sunglasses, and he can see that the people who are running the city and the people who are on television, they're all lizard people, like Alex Jones. They're like aliens, right? And when you pick up, he goes to a magazine rack and he puts the sunglasses on, and it says buy, consume, all this other stuff. So basically, all of the messaging has been reduced down to the one word that they actually really want you to do. Huh. So then he goes around the rest of the movie trying to convince everybody that that the world is being run by lizard people, and they're trying to program your brain. And
which is the position you found yourself in when you went to the hairdresser.
Right, exactly.
Does he win?
I'm not going to give away the ending.
I'm gonna look it up. What's it called?
It's called They Live.
It's called They Live. Oh, and there's Barnes. So Barnes has to let us know.
If we're okay to.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, you just kind of gave it up. But I wanted to congratulate Lauren. Like, that's something that most people don't do, is think about, where did these ideas in my head originate? Were they with me or were they with somebody else? And the fact that you're sitting here willing to admit, like, I had no personality of my own.
No, I didn't. Straight up. I mean, like, you have to be like, that's one thing, at least on the left, and I've noticed some conservatives doing it too, and I've called them out for it. Like, we have to admit that we were wrong at some point, and we have to be able to say, I have learned new information, my mind has changed, and this is what I think now. And if we keep demonizing that, then I'm never who I was like a week ago because I learned something new or whatever. And that's, since when was that a bad thing? Like, changing your personality all the time is a whole different story, but that was, 19-year-old me, but I'm 30 now. And it's just like, you have to be able to grow and change. And it's absolutely forbidden on the left. And there's some conservatives that are bad about it too, to be honest.
Well, when you think about it, though, like when you change your mind, what happens is an idea, it dies, and then it becomes resurrected and reborn as something else, And so changing your mind is really the real miracle, right? The fact that you can look at something, see it one way, judge it by some different pieces of information, and then turn it into something else. I think that's really what makes us as beings superior to other life forms. Let's just say.
It makes me wonder if I hadn't learned about Puerto Rico, like, surely something else would have triggered it by now. But I don't know. Like, it makes me wonder, like, well, God, if not that, then what?
Right. Well, Tracy and I have talked about before, but we've run into dozens of people in the last 6 or 8 months, especially the people that came to me that were leftists, that suddenly woke up and are now, vehement Donald Trump fans, were social distancing, mask wearing, health nuts. Only eat organic, non-GMO everything. And they practiced all of that safe hygiene stuff. And then George Floyd happened, and all the television networks immediately switched over to Black Lives Matter, and suddenly having thousands of people together in the street wasn't a big deal, and that snapped a lot of them. There's broke them.
There's no evidence that protests passed the virus.
They actually decreased it. Did you see those stories?
Oh yeah.
That's how insane it's gotten. And now, I don't know if you two saw today, but Biden's talking about having a virtual inauguration, which I think is a really clever way of hiding the fact that there's no enthusiasm for you.
Biden is a hologram.
This is why he can't have an inauguration.
Did y'all hear? Did you actually watch the video of him explaining how he broke his foot? Like, I know everyone knows the story, but have you actually watched him explain it to the interviewer the other day? Because it is hysterically horrible. Like, he's so clearly lying. It's nah.
Well, they could have come up with a better lie, right? Like, my understanding is he said he was getting out of the shower, and the dog was there, and he grabbed the dog's tail. Well, okay, you tell me, because you actually heard it out of his mouth.
Well, so that's it's not a guaranteed thing, but you can usually tell if someone's lying if they start over explaining something. Because, like, if you're like, how'd you break your foot? I was playing with my dog. Then they're like, oh, how? If someone asks for more details, you'll get to it. Sorry, my hair is doing something weird. I don't look like I have a mullet. But so he says, so I was getting out of the shower, which is an unnecessary detail. Like, you realize he's given that detail, like, why? That has nothing to do with the rest of it. So he says, I was getting out of the shower, and then my dog was there, and then he tries to qualify the statement. He's like, anyone who's been around my house will tell you there's a dog. So he's trying to, convince you to buy into a story because people have seen his dog before. And he says, so then my little pup, it had a ball there, and then it put the ball on the floor, and then I picked it up, and then it ran, which he didn't say that he threw the ball, so why would the dog have run? But whatever. So then he says, so then I chased the dog. He's like, it's a narrow little hallway, so like he's trying
So
to, I
he's
guess,
chasing the dog naked through his house.
with a ball in his hand, and then he says he tries to reach out to pull the dog's tail. The dog slips on the rug, and then he slips on the rug that the dog slipped on. It is
Wow.
so over like explained.
And there's naked Joe laying on the floor with the ball.
Surrounded by Secret Service.
Oh my god! I bet
Yeah.
they saw it.
Methinks thou doth protest too much, right?
Just make
Right.
up too much or too ridiculous of a story to Lauren's point.
I got out of the shower. The dog dropped the ball. I picked up the ball. The dog ran. I tried to grab its tail. He slipped over the rug. It was narrow, and I slipped on his rug. And like I tripped and fell playing with
And
the
he
dog.
did call it an
All he-
alleyway, didn't he? He called it an alleyway, not a hallway.
Yeah, he's like a narrow alleyway. Okay, okay, Joe. Okay.
Yeah. In any case, there's so many details that it doesn't sound like he's telling the truth.
All right. I would like for him to like, wait, what happened after you grabbed the ball? Like someone needs to ask him like in the middle of the story what happened then, because usually people like it's like he rehearsed what he was gonna say. So he's like, okay. And you can actually see too when he's talking, his face goes from being kind of just like a normal color to by the time he's finished telling the story, like under his eyes and around his nose have gotten very pale. That's also a sign of lying. So
There you go. You've gone deep into the psychology stuff too, huh? Trying to suss out who's been lying to you all these years.
well, I just I think that the brain is a very weird thing, and anytime I find myself getting like automatically angry if I like see I try to ask myself why and try to figure out like when did that get programmed into me, like why do I like get mad when I see X, because I really, people are like, how are you not angry or sad all the time with all the stuff you research, and like I'm honestly a pretty happy person all the time. I don't let it get to me, but like so I try to figure out like what does get to me and figure out like who put that there? Get it out. I don't like it.
Yeah, we've talked before about this thing called the yes ladder, which is something they use on television where somebody will lay out a bunch of obvious kind of general stuff, a bunch of facts in a row to get you to say yes in your head several times. And then at the right moment, they suggest something that winds up being the thing that comes out of your mouth the next day at a party, as if it was your idea. So I suggest to people that when they're watching one of those little squares with a head on it, like we are right now, that you count the number of times that you say yes in your head to the person who's talking, because it's just it's a defense mechanism. It's like a shield.
It counters the programming.
Yeah.
But yeah, Peter and I have done a decent dive over the last year or so into hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming and understanding why our brains work the way that they do.
And that's what made us
Maybe some books or at least recommendations.
that's what made us start doing this show.
Yeah.
Well, that's what TikTok is. It's like 10-second clips that they say over and over and over again, and it's absolutely like brainwashed like a whole generation of kids. It's scary.
Yeah. And it's strange to me that picked up after Vine died. Because Vine was 6-second loops.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the difference is and why it worked now and it didn't work before.
Well, I don't think they were making a lot of money at the beginning, but it was a big company from China. Like they had, I guess, enough money to pay for it until they were able to make it successful. They have an incredibly sophisticated algorithm where if you even like look at a video for a little bit longer than it will pinpoint exactly what you want to watch. Like it's very sophisticated, and it's actually very interesting to see. And so it's addicting because you're like, oh, just keep swiping a little bit more, and then all of a sudden it's like I've watched 1,000 5-second videos or whatever, and it's 100% a time drain. But it's eh,
Yeah, it's hypnotic.
the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It
It's repetition.
It puts you in a trance, right? Is that what you're
Yeah.
going to say, Peter?
Yeah, puts you into an alpha state, and you don't want to get out of the alpha state. So it's kind of like imagine taking a hit off of a joint, but you can't stay high unless you keep hitting it. Like as soon as you put the joint down, your high goes away immediately. So you've got to keep doing it.
Boo.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it is a new way. Everything is a method for injecting propaganda now. I don't know that there's any medium that hasn't been completely taken over by propaganda.
Everything is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like the food you eat, the music you listen to, the shows you watch, the movies you watch, like the clothes you put on your body, the everything is bullshit. And even like if you find yourself quoting like a TV show back and forth to your friend, like you're just repeating the garbage you like consume back to each other. Like it's sad, but it is what it is.
So-
That's okay. People wake up. I mean, I think that we're all examples of people who are doing that. I mean, Tracy and I got, our origin story, cool story, is that we were just, that we both worked in the entertainment business. So we saw how the sausage was made. So when we're watching TV shows, we're trying to figure out where they put the key light in that scene. And so this is key
yeah,
light.
the key light.
The main light that's lighting whoever's talking in the
It's
shot.
just shorthand for we're looking at that and being like, "Ooh, how did they shoot this? These are the difficulties that I could see setting up that shot and this shot, and oh, what a pain in the ass! Like they had to spend time doing coverage, and so we don't look at it and get hypnotized into movies.
Is that a dolly shot or a steady cam?
Yeah,
Or
or that handheld, and somebody's really good.
where did they put the mic?
Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself getting immersed in shows or movies anymore, or no? Like impossible?
You have to make a conscious decision that that's what you're going to do.
Okay.
You have to kind of like turn off your analyst when you do it. But
And now I've added the additional, like, let me look for symbolism, because we've also been looking into the esoteric world and learning about symbols and the power of symbology and all this stuff. So our good friend Pat Moyce, who's been on the show a couple times, he's like our resident occult expert, was telling me to go watch that show Hannibal. I don't know if either one of you have watched it.
I haven't seen it.
In the movie.
I watched Silence of the Lambs 30 years ago.
It's pretty good. I watched the first 2 episodes, and it follows Hannibal Lecter before he's Hannibal Lecter while he's still just a psychiatrist. And they bring him in to the FBI to help consult on this other guy they have doing field work who's a psychological, he's one of the guys that puts together the profiles on the serial killers, whatever. And his deal is he's a super empath. So he kind of can feel out what the killer's trying to do. And so they want him psychoanalyzed, and in comes Lecter to be the one that psychoanalyzes the profile. So that's kind of the setup of the show. But the reason I decided to start watching it was because I was looking at tarot stuff and trying to learn some tarot cards things. And for some reason I searched in Twitter to see who's talking about that, what they're sharing. And somebody had shared a bunch of screen grabs of the show Hannibal. And they're like, look, it's this tarot card over here. It's this exact layout. And I was like, well, that's wild. And it's Brian Fuller that does that show. And now he does American Horror Story and a couple other big shows. And I thought, well, that's interesting. He's building these tarot cards into the show. And sure enough, I watched the first episode and caught one that Twitter hadn't caught. I'm like, he started with the Fool, which is the first card in the tarot deck. And the tarot deck is the story of the Fool's journey through all these things. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm like, oh, they laid that out in the first 5 minutes. Boom. So what other symbols are they putting in front of you, and why?
That's all of it. So what's the what is the I don't know how to ask this. What's the point of tarot cards? What do they do?
There's several different theories to it. I mean, the way that it's presented commonly is that somebody goes and they read your fortune with it, right? But the more you start studying ancient texts and all those kind of things and trying to put these stories together, because every culture had basically the same characters that show up under different names. So the Greek pantheon is represented over here in the Egyptian world and this kind of stuff. So the cards go back all the way into Egypt. They had them. And they're telling stories in each one of them. And I'm trying to piece together what that means. And you can look at them and derive all sorts of information if you start understanding how to read the symbols themselves. And then it helps you ask questions. And then I think it forces you into your subconscious would be my answer. To play with the symbols and then think about what they mean to you. You're extracting that information from your subconscious as opposed to your conscious mind. And that's where your real opinions lie, right? Like, you were talking about how you lived all that time. You kind of had these surface level ideas. But once you go deeper, so my kind of thought now is it's kicking me into my subconscious to just play around with these things, just look at the symbols and then go read what people think about them and try to see if that resonates with me or not.
And yeah, Tracy and I both read a few books by this woman named Tracy Twyman too, who did a lot of research into the occult stuff and was found hanging in her garage a couple of years ago.
After she started looking into Pizzagate stuff, or related to that kind of stuff, she started looking into child trafficking, and next thing you know, she's hanging in her garage.
There's a lot of good content on YouTube, and there's a website for Tracy Twyman too. But you know, the
I'll send you all her stuff. I've got it all.
my big takeaway about all that occult stuff is that if you assume that there are let's just call it, there's evil energy in the universe, or let's just say there's energy in the universe, and that by using all of these kind of visual symbols that you can conjure that stuff into your life, that it winds up having an effect, and that you can call it spirits, you can call it energy, you can call it all kinds of stuff, but if you're not conjuring it, you're not going to get it, and so you're not going. Okay, so that's one way of protecting yourself from it, is to just kind of ignore it and have it go away. But if you start playing with it, then, if it does wind up conjuring that kind of energy, then it's an issue. Another path that I've been talking to Pat and Tracy about for a while, not on this channel, but when we get it more formalized, I probably will, is the idea that when you start to dig into this stuff, you start to realize that it could be that there's a lot of information that has been encoded into things over the centuries. That is, there's an exoteric way of presenting information. I'm watching this show by this docu-course by this guy named Billy Phillips right now on the Kabbalah, and the idea.
Nuts over that for a while.
Say again.
Everyone went nuts over that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the idea is that he's presenting in this book. I mean, sorry, in this series, is that that the parables are actually the exoteric tradition of Judaism and Christianity. That is, this is the stories that we give to the hoi polloi, to the unwashed, the uninitiated, the people who haven't spent the time to try to figure out what this is all about. But then there's secret knowledge, and that the secret knowledge is, in the case of Billy Phillips, it's been passed from mouth to mouth. It's been an oral tradition. But there's other ways that you can pass information secretly, and one of the ways is to encrypt it and use keys. And when I look at tarot cards, I ask myself the question: are these keys is this the key to something that's encoded? And that if I actually knew how to use this key, I could decode the information that it's being used in order to encode it, kind of like a one-time pad, or some other kind of cryptographic artifact.
My brain does not work like that.
Sure it does. The way that you do research, it tells me that you could understand this stuff.
Give it
Okay,
another 33 years.
Nah. But look, you're already looking into the people that run the world behind the scenes, right? And the further you dig into them, the more you realize that they're looking at the same stuff that Peter and I were just talking about. So whether we personally believe in it or not is kind of irrelevant because they seem to.
Well, that's like if you think about Alex Jones, I mean, he gets a bad rep because he talks about it, but everyone's like, "Oh, Alex Jones is crazy." But he just talks about what the crazy people believe in. He doesn't necessarily give any power to it, like in his own, self. But he got mixed up with that, and everyone's like, "Alex Jones is crazy." I thought he was too. I watch his show fairly frequently now. I think it's great.
Yeah, and I saw him when he was on with Tim Pool and Michael Malice. And they kind of went down this rabbit hole a little bit, and Tim Pool wanted nothing to do with it. And Michael Malice kept saying, like, look, Tim, Alex isn't saying he believes this stuff. He's saying the people that we're fighting against believe this stuff.
Right.
If we want to understand what motivates them, you have to at least entertain these things.
Yeah, I think Michael said something that I still actually think about it. He said something like, if we sat down at a table and tried to write down like the most like messed up things and like the most convoluted things to like kind of imagine what they get up to, he's like, we wouldn't even come up with it. Like we wouldn't even come close, because what occurs to us in our minds and like why we do things is not why they're doing things. Like it's for like totally different, like psychological, like I guess pleasure or whatever, or power or something. I don't know. It's
or occult rituals.
Right, exactly.
Which is what Alex was trying to get to, and Tim's just he can't go there yet, and maybe he will in a little while. But this guy's right. See, if the elites didn't believe this stuff, they wouldn't pack it into TVs, movies, and music. And you can sit on YouTube and for hours watch. These are the videos of people doing this symbolism, and they're all Illuminati and those things. And we have to understand is the power of
hiding it. Like
but if you understand, there was a book that Pat told me to read called Egregores. And I'm like, what the hell is an egregore? So if I try to explain it, I'll probably butcher it, but we'll have him on sometime to do it. But it's basically, it's a totem or a talisman, or if you want to think about it, like it's a mascot.
Okay.
So the idea behind this being that you can charge something like that with energy. So the more people that are behind that thing, the stronger that it gets. The more people who even have it in their subconscious, and the way that you do that is just exposing them to it visually or as an idea. It builds energy around that idea or concept. Yeah, I mean, think about how often you see the commie fist come back. That would be an egregore for them. It's just a funny name because it's an old word, but it's just a symbol that has power. So every time they show you those symbols and put it in your face like that, you're at least, it's draining a little bit of energy from you into powering it. Does that make any sense?
No, it does. I'm just
okay.
That's something I've never heard of that concept, but yeah, it makes
there's
total sense.
Videos where you can see people saying like, look at this thing shows up in this person's logo, that logo, this logo. You'll start seeing it, and even businesses. Like, why did they pick that thing?
Right.
And they're trying to power up whatever it is. And I mean, it goes deep. This is the intergenerational vampires and like aliens and the fourth dimension stuff.
Well,
that's where Alex comes up with that, is he's talking about these kind of things, these thought forms and energy forms. And this is why I was saying to Peter, we need to start branding stuff and building energy around ideas and people and even words, because it gives them power. And everybody that participated in the meme wars knows exactly this power, right?
Right, Keck,
Pepe, all those things.
Oh yeah, they like. The theory is they like invoked a like ancient frog god to like come and unleash hell on earth, and it was awesome.
And if you want to go from the occult side, they would say that frog god put itself in somebody's minds. Like Peter told me, I thought this was great, that ideas just kind of exist and they're looking for hosts. to attach themselves to, and I think that's totally
that idea. Steve Jobs didn't come up with the iPhone. The iPhone found Steve Jobs. The idea for the iPhone found him, and then used him as a host because it had gone around to a bunch of other people and tried it, and it didn't work. So it got to Steve Jobs, and it worked.
So that was.
I mean, I started thinking about it because I was at Yosemite one day with my daughter a few years ago, and we were looking at Half Dome, and I was watching all the Japanese tourists come up and take a picture of Half Dome. And Half Dome, it's the most famous big giant rock in Yosemite Valley, and millions of people go to Yosemite Valley every year to take the same photograph. And I was thinking, this thing is a meme, like it's this giant meme that people will travel thousands of miles and get in their car and drive for hours to come and see, and then they take a picture of it. And there's thousands of photographers who have taken amazing, great photographs of Half Dome. Ansel Adams probably being the most famous, but still, people want to come to it and they want to take pictures of it, and they want their own. It's like they're pissing on it or something. They need to make it about them. It's kind of like the selfie, right? Why do people always? It's so I'm always laughing now when I see a photograph of somebody who's standing there with somebody who they obviously have high admiration for, but they have their back to them and their camera, their phone up in the air, and they're looking away from the person because they want both of their faces looking into the camera at the same time. It's like you have 5 seconds to talk to Donald Trump, and what do? You turn your back on him. Like, how weird is that?
I'd probably get like tased by the Secret Service or trying to hug him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he'd be like, "Bring that girl up here. I want to shake her hand."
I want to hug Donald Trump. That's all I want.
I like Addie's idea though. We should start VFWs for the meme war vets. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, I put on my meme war veteran hat for Lauren, and
I know. I think we should send Lauren one of those. I don't. Have you ever seen those, Lauren?
Mm-mm.
No, you did because you gave me a hard time about it when I put the hat on.
What?
I didn't know it was a Nemor hat. I just thought it was a hat.
No, hang on. Oh, here it is.
It's like a, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, the Chans do have power.
The meme war.
Yeah.
Meme war veteran.
Power.
That's badass.
Yeah. I've got Pepe, and then I've got like the Wojak version of the Death's Head. So, which may be bad.
We're too powerful for the algorithm. That's what Twitter doesn't understand. They think they can like ban another account. Like, I'll be back tomorrow. So be it. Like, you're gonna hide my Twitter? I'll give people a direct link. It's fine.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, which by the way, Lauren has done a good thing, which is like she has a link tree on her bio, so that if you want to follow her in as many different ways possible, that you can do that. You want what's that link, Lauren?
It's a link tree. You would type in linktr.ee/some bitch I know.
Some bitch I know. All right.
We'll put it in the description box on the show.
Yeah.
And yes, Nikki D, The Sociopath Next Door was an interesting book. I like that one.
I like that book a lot. We should probably put it on our list, Tracy.
I will add it to the book list. Oh, and then we can tell everybody that we actually pushed the site live today.
Oh yeah, that's right.
What's that?
Our website.
Oh.
There we go. We therealityos.com. Where you can find all of the books that we talk about, because to your point earlier, I think that one of the ways that Tracy and I have put up a bulwark against bullshit is to read. We read books because it turns out that there's lots of authors who have written well-cited, well-documented stories about why we are in the shit show that we're in right now. And if you pick up a book by somebody named Servando Gonzalez or Anthony Sutton or a whole list of other people, you have a pretty good idea of understanding what's going on right now. But if you're trying to figure that out by watching television or even YouTube sometimes, it becomes difficult.
Yeah. I tried to watch the news the other day just to like see what people are taking in, and it's gotten so unhinged. It's terrifying. Like, it used to be terrible, but it's like a totally different level now. Or maybe I'm
Yeah, it
just
almost seems uncoupled from reality.
it seems like a comedy almost. Like, everything is an outrage to them. I don't know how they can possibly like everything is an outrage, and I don't see how you can do that every single day and still convince your audience that like they should be outraged whether or not Trump like served some football players some McDonald's, or whether or not they made up a Russian collusion story. I mean, they gave the same level of intense anger and outrage to both of those stories, and it's just like holy shit. Calm down.
Right, and for 3 years, right, the Russians hacked the election, and now the same people are saying there's no election interference.
Oh, I found a good video.
Yeah, did you put it out yet?
No, I have to render it still. I finished it like right as I was needing to,
Do you want to tease it a little bit so everybody's ready for it when it drops out?
Oh, sure. Well, they've been waiting for it all day. So last night I found I wanted to make sure that I'd archived everything first and kind of had the full story, but I'd never heard of this before. But you've got like your Council of Foreign Relations, Atlantic Council, all that. Well, there's a Pacific Council.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never heard of the Pacific Council before. And you've got a lot of frequent flyers there. You've got like Podesta and Clinton and McCain before he died, and Condoleezza and all them. And they all give frequent talks or whatever. But about a year ago, the CEO of Smartmatic gave himself a little speech about the elections and what is safe and what is insecure. And personally, I think that it was a way for him to basically broadcast the message, because it says it's like a nonpartisan kind of group, but it's clearly not. It was a way for him to communicate with people exactly what you can and not get away with. And he says it verbatim. He's like, paper ballots are terrible because like you think that. Anyways, it's about 15 minutes long, and I've watched it several times. It's
so he was pitching his company's services.
Yeah, it was a sell.
That, but I mean, he's sitting here saying, people are like, paper ballots are fine, and he's like, there's nothing more insecure than a paper ballot. And this is like the guy that everyone's simultaneously telling us that we need to trust Smartmatic and Dominion. So he's telling us right here, you can't trust those ballots. So is he a saint and all-knowing, or is he not? Like, it's like, we're the cognitive, like, break the cognitive dissonance here and like look at this logically. Like, he's saying paper ballots aren't secure, so they either are or they're not. And you're also insisting that we should just trust his machines implicitly. So we should trust what, like, we either, no, Lord Moloch Brown, he's just got a promotion though. Congratulations.
He's at what company is Lord Moloch Brown on?
He's Open Societies with the Soroses.
Right, but he's also isn't he the president of Dominion?
He is with Dominion. He was in the Philippines. Was it Smartmatic, actually?
Hang on, because one of the things that I put up on the site was that somebody had archived that networks connector that Quigley made.
Right, Carol
and
Quigley.
that has all that stuff on it.
Oh, I've been making a new network map. It's scary.
Yeah, I love network maps. But to your point where you kind of rolled your eyes about it being nonpartisan, I think the thing is these people aren't partisan. They put on partisan uniforms to go play politicians in front of all of us. But when it comes down to it, we're
going to heal now.
But they're also all on the same team. This is why they're all in the Council of Foreign Relations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, blue team, red team.
I never knew there was a Pacific Council before.
Well, I didn't know that there was one either, because there actually was one but it got busted by Joe McCarthy, I think, in the 50s, and then it got dissolved. I can't remember what the name of that was, but it got set up at the same time as Chatham House and the Council on Foreign Relations, and then it got blown up in the 50s by McCarthy.
So Lord Moloch Brown is the chairman of Dominion, or Smartmatic, excuse me. That's what he was. He's not the president. The CEO is the Venezuelan guy, isn't it?
It's Antonio
Mar.
Mujica.
Okay.
Mujica. Or Mujica. I don't know.
Mujica is probably how you say it. He's the one that I found in the middle of the night, right? Talking in that AP interview where he's like, there was just like this 1 million phantom votes that got made up in that Venezuelan election.
So Smartmatic is the software that runs on the Dominion machines. Is that the way it works?
Partially, yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically all Diebold, like at the end of the day. Like that's really, it goes back to Diebold.
Yeah, they just keep changing names. So it's like Acorn when O'Keefe busted them and then they had to go away. They're back now under some other name and they were involved in the election fraud.
Right, because the organization's
they were
still
paying
there.
protesters. I caught them.
Oh yeah, were you the one that found the video of those two women with the saying, "Hey, you can take raffle tickets."
Oh no, this was something else entirely. But yeah, no, like, well, that's I mean, they were advertising, they were giving out like free breakfast to vote or whatever, which like, I guess like that's fine, but like think about all the homeless people or whatever that are gonna like show up to vote or whatever, like.
Yeah, and it's like we'll pay you this much to show up and vote and buy you lunch, but if you vote this way, you'll get dessert too.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's so overwhelming to people, and I tried to put it in context the other day on Twitter, I said, think about how many different ways you can come up with to steal money. And if you start going down that list in your head, there's a hell of a lot of ways to steal money. So think about how many ways there are to steal an election. So they're trying every one of those at the same time. So it's not like, oh, that's it. They were just paying all these people and that's how it worked. No, it seems to me that they also made up fake ballots. They registered fake voters. They used people who hadn't voted. They used people who moved.
I think there was like the like core like things that they did do, like I guess with like the vote switching and like the, you know, like that was like a big core. But you also have people who didn't talk to anybody and they just decided this is how I'm gonna, you know, do my part. And so you've got solo actors, rogue actors, whatever, and it seems like they did too much because you know.
Well, I think that part of the strategy, though, is an information warfare strategy. I mean, at the end of the day, because if you've got it's like Pizzagate, right? What you do is that if they
kill us, they kill us. I mean, it's like, come on.
If you do it.
If you wind up coming with as many different tangential explanations as possible, eventually the real story will get lost in the mix someplace. You know, especially if none of them are ever followed up on. If you don't actually have real journalists that are going back and following the leads, then it becomes easier for somebody to say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory because none of those things ever panned out. They never turned into anything. It's because nobody ever followed up on them, right?
Those weren't suitcases full of ballots. They were standard ballot boxes. That's what they were saying yesterday. I was like, does it
Maybe
matter?
they were. Why were they under the tablecloth?
Right. No, but they're like, but it wasn't suitcases. So that was their fact check.
Congratulations. I don't care what they were. Tell me why they were underneath the tablecloth. Tell me why. I mean, am I wrong that that's the place where they told everybody there was a water leak and they had to leave?
Yeah, but it was actually at like 6 a.m. the next morning.
And it was a blocked toilet?
Yeah. So those are all the things that get thrown to the side just so they can be like, it wasn't a suitcase, guys.
Well, that's when I research, I tend to, that was like, I learned a lot of hard lessons with Maiden Gate because I've never like broken a story before or like been kind of like on it as it was happening. And so I learned like, you know, kind of how to deal with things. But I if you go back to just like a little bit before whatever's going on, everyone's already moved on to the next thing. So like there's all sorts of untied like ends and dotted I's and crossed T's and all that. So you can find all people's like sloppy like messes, and that's like, and they're just there, you know, and no one's even looking at them. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. No, the media moves along they move along very quickly, the media.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about the title that we made today, Resistance or Defiance.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that we were discussing when we were so basically we put together this video and we thought that it was really good at dropping people into an alpha state and setting them up with the right message. But then we wanted to figure out what the ask was. What's the suggestion that we put at the end? And so we came up with something, that we all agreed to. But at the end of the day, the thing that was motivating us was, okay, well, what are we going to ask people to go do? Because at this point, it's resistance is kind of passive, right? It's saying, oh, I won't go along with whatever it is that you're saying. But we're at a point right now where we need to be defiant. After watching those videos hundreds of times, a lot of people in our chat room were asking the question, why did those people just go away? Why didn't they force their way through the door and get arrested? Why weren't they doing what the left always does? I mean, I was answering the question in my head because the people on the left know there's somebody who's going to show up and bail them out of jail, right? Because it's already been organized that they're going to get arrested and that they're going to get thrown in jail and that their lawyer is already paid for.
Yeah, I tell everybody, if you're watching protests on the left, look for people in bright green, like neon green hats, baseball hats. That's the National Lawyers Guild guys. They're there to follow you off to jail and get you out.
Right.
So we don't have that. But go ahead, Peter. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah. So we're at a point right now where we're really in crunch time. And, I do urge people to go to stopthesteal.us. And if you can't give any money to them, figure out where their next protest is going to be in your area and go get involved. Show up, bodies on the streets are effective ways of moving the narrative in the direction that you want it to go in. And we're at a point right now where that's almost the only thing that's going to be effective beyond what's going on in court. Or if Trump decides that he's going to exercise the power of the executive office, which he seems to be loath to do.
Well, and the other thing, too, I just went to Stop the Steal to make sure they have it. If you're not a get in the streets type of person, they have contact information for every single Republican that can have any kind of influence over this. So you can reach out to them, call their office, or send them an email. Not everybody likes getting in the streets.
And the Republicans are the real problem right now.
Yeah.
The Republicans are the real problem right now. I mean, the MAGA, love them or hate them, but the MAGA group, they really are a ragtag bunch, and they are not all Republicans. There's a lot of disenfranchised Democrats or independents that are part of that movement. But the Republican fence sitters are, they're going to move us closer to a war than anything else by just not being demonstrative. So we need to give them a backbone.
I agree. I think that the best thing that you can do is like move against the grain. If everyone's saying something or agreeing with, just like, don't pay attention to what everyone else is doing and saying. Like, do and say what you feel is right, and other people will follow your lead. That's what they're doing with the others. So like, all you got to do is like blaze your own trail. People will it's like one person stands up, everyone else does too.
Somebody said there's not much going on in Texas. Georgia isn't that far away.
Yeah. Well, and to Lauren's point, courage is contagious. Over the last week, seeing the protests against the lockdown really starting to gain momentum. You saw the bar owner in Staten Island. And I didn't realize how genius he had been with this whole thing. I don't know if he changed his business model because they weren't allowed to charge people for food. Like this is the stupid little minutia of the law. Mm-hmm. So he kept his restaurant open and said, we're not charging anybody for food, but we encourage you to make a donation. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Right.
Perfect, right? And then they came and shut him down. And you saw the people in the streets there. And then the same thing happens in California. So you're talking about New York and California. the most blue of blue places, and you finally got pushback from owners saying you're destroying my life. For what?
And I doubt either one of those people voted for Trump.
I wouldn't be surprised if the guy in Staten Island did.
Yeah.
But the woman
A lot more
in
people voted for Trump than you think did. That's kind of what we're getting to right now.
yeah, that's true.
All right, somebody's saying Parler and Mastodon. I did a deep dive on Mastodon last week, and it is a geek's paradise. Like you have to jump through so many hoops to make that thing work. Forget about it. It's like ridiculous.
And Lauren was one that encouraged me to get on Gab or revitalize my Gab. Gab is way more fun than Parler.
Yeah, Gab is where you want to be.
Yes.
Well, Gab, like, they didn't try to make it look too much like not Twitter, you know? Like, Parler is not user friendly, but Gab, like, it works a lot like Twitter, but people actually say what they think, and it's awesome.
And I saw the CEO of Gab put out this insanely great video earlier in the week with like kind of like a rally cry to fight back against the election. And I was like, holy crap, that's the CEO of Gab doing that. It's like, wow.
He sent me a DM just to welcome me back to Gab. Like when I got kicked off Twitter the first time, he just like, hey, I heard what happened. Welcome. And I was like, what? Like that was so kind of him. Like Jack Dorsey doesn't do that. Obviously. No. Like he doesn't think about anybody or like that. He really cares a lot. He's a really good guy. So
now, do you agree with this comment here that they're very anti-pedophilia activism? I haven't seen that on Gab.
I haven't. Yeah, I mean, you see who you follow, so that's.
Yeah, if anything, I mean,
one of the things I like about Gab is they do something that Twitter should have done from day one, which is like you pay them some money and they'll verify you, and then you get a check. And I think it's Gab Pro or something.
Yeah.
Someone sponsored my Gab for a full year. I don't know what's the difference, but I have a Gab Pro and I'm verified now. So
awesome.
It's Mark Zilla. Thanks, Mark.
Yes, and I know that there's some parts of Texas that are 20 hours away from Georgia, but I'm just saying, find something to do instead of sitting on your phone and retweeting stuff. Because I used to let me back on. They went through a purge.
Interesting.
Okay, but Jen, and this is probably not the right form, but my question would be, how were you using it to expose pedophilia? Because pedophilia is one of those things that's really kind of like, it's multiple third rails, right?
Yeah.
Because how do you talk about it without promoting it? And I understand the vectors because it's being used for blackmail, right? And so how do you expose it without making it more powerful? How do you, this is something that law enforcement should be doing behind the scenes. They're not doing it, and screaming about that is the right thing to do.
It's too widespread.
Yeah. Right, but there's ways to start cutting down on it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, for sure.
So
I'm anti-pedophilia, but
well, thanks, Peter. We were really concerned.
Yeah.
You need to tell us that you're going to drop bombs before you do so, please.
Did you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Dank memes. Yeah. Dank. Yeah. I think.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, they have a huge Q community on Gab.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe write an appeal, or we can lobby for you. Yeah.
I've been doing it. It's fine.
So, Peter, you've come over to the Defiance camp. Was that the?
Oh, I'm in the Defiance camp. I've always been in the Defiance camp.
No, I thought we were arguing earlier this week, and you were saying you like to resist.
Well, that's just messaging. We were having an argument about messaging.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not against using resist. Ironically, I think I've told the story that I have a neighbor who's got a resist ball cap, and she's got a resist sticker on her car, and I live in an apartment building, and there was this social distancing notice that was put up on the wall of the laundry that we all share, and I put #resist on it. That was fun.
Yeah, we like little culture jamming things.
Yeah, I like culture jamming.
So we're going to go to Biden's virtual inauguration or what?
Oh, if they allow comments on that, it would be
I won't.
highly entertaining.
I can't even understand it. You're talking about January in DC. Everybody's going to be bundled up like crazy. You're telling me that COVID can escape through masks and scarves and all that kind of stuff?
Look, if Biden is inaugurated, we don't have a republic anymore. I mean, and it's just I don't think Scott was being hyperbolic in that video. I will refuse to participate in government at that point. I just don't think it's effective.
I think we would be looking at a very real national divorce.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Let's go to the table and have the talk.
Yep. You get California and New York, we'll get the rest. Cool.
They can take the whole West Coast and the whole East Coast north of New York and up.
Well, here's the issue, because I was watching an economics video about that the other day, and it has to do with transportation. That is that if you take a look at the most advanced places to live in the world, there are all places that are close to ports on oceans, because it turns out that moving all of the stuff that you need in order to make the quality of life better, it's much cheaper to move it over oceans than it is over the land. And so,
Sorry.
and in the Treaty of Versailles, I mean, part of the reason that Poland was partitioned the way that it was because Germans wanted Danzig. Is Danzig on the Baltic?
Yes, I believe so.
The Germans wanted access to the Baltic, and so they gave them this corridor, this finger of German territory that went out to the Baltic, so that they could have control over it. So if we're going to start talking about partitioning, I think that we need to have equal access to ports.
Well, then San Diego stays, because that's kind of red.
Yes, I'd move to San Diego.
Yeah, but
Most
otherwise,
of the country is red.
Yeah.
It's like 500 counties went blue, and like the other 2,000 went red.
Well, maybe Biden is planning on having a virtual inauguration because he's not going to be in Washington, D.C., and he's not going to be at the White House because Trump is going to be in Washington, D.C., and Trump is going to be at the White House. And so they'll have an actual inauguration and then a virtual inauguration at the same time. And that way each side can line up and be mobilized in order to move to the next step of whatever this crazy situation that we're having is.
Well, let's surround the White House and not let him in.
Yeah. Well, my issue, Tracy, with all of this Civil War talk is the idea that that's exactly what the globalists want. They want it's the same thing as 1860. They want us fighting each other because they want to be able to step in and save us. They want the blue helmets to come in and the F-35s that say UN on them instead of U.S. Air Force. In order to come in and be peacemakers, peacekeepers.
Right. And then what do? We do just what they did in the Civil War, and we call the Russians.
Yes. That's not a bad
we're
idea.
okay with Putin. I'm not that convinced that he's as bad as I've been told. That idea is just one that arrived in my brain.
What did he do bad other than apparently rig the election, which didn't actually happen?
He kicked the CIA out of Russia.
Good.
He kicked Larry Summers and Bill Browder out of Russia because
they destroyed the economy.
And he told all the oligarchs that were created by the CIA, either you start paying your taxes or get out. And half of them got out, and the other half started paying their taxes. So
gave him a chance. Gave him a choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if it comes to that, and they send in the blue helmets, I think we'll have the red guard. I don't know how else to do this.
We'll be fine.
I don't know how we do this peacefully.
The second they put like UN boots on the ground, I don't know if you can say that. The second they put UN boots on the ground, it's straight up war. There are people that are ready for that. So that'd be a foreign invasion at this point.
Right.
I agree.
Right.
And
That's why I'm a proponent of nuking Davos.
Stop.
And
Join my cause.
There you go. You should send Lauren that graphic so she can share.
I think Lauren has seen it. I think I've showed Lauren that before. If Twitter wants to say that, or if YouTube wants to say that I'm inciting something, it's like I have no nuclear weapons. Okay, it's a joke, but I strongly advise anybody who does have nuclear weapons that they might consider it.
Yeah.
I don't think. Well, here's the thing about the blue helmets with the 450 million guns. What if Gavin Newsom? What if Gavin Newsom decides that he's going to give the California National Guard to the UN? You know.
Yeah.
And
if the National Guard went along with that, then you know, we got more to worry about.
Exactly. But people think, oh, the UN's going to be flying people in here. No, they're just going to hand out the blue helmets to our guys, which is why I think that Trump's,
Chicago wears blue helmets now. Do you know that?
No.
Interesting.
Same color, everything.
Chicago, it's right there on the border with Canada.
It's right on a lake.
Yeah, but it's like Canada's like creeping in, right?
Canada creep.
Maybe they'll burn the White House again.
I noticed that the other day. It freaked me out.
That they have blue helmets?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because those decisions are very. I want to know who made that decision.
Someone who is having a little laugh about it.
No, I don't think it's a laugh. I mean, I think the color thing. It was in the 2000 election that all of the networks got together and decided that Republicans were red and Democrats were blue because it was never like that before. And the idea of calling Republicans red has always been kind of counter-signaling to me, because reds are Nazis, reds are communists, reds are resist, reds are reds,
right.
And Republicans aren't red. And Trump kind of did the cultural appropriation thing, and he grabbed the Make America Great Again thing and made it his own. But it would sure be great if he had blue hats too that said Make America Great Again, and he wore them.
Well, yeah. He wears the white one all the time.
Yeah, the white one. Yeah, I see the white one.
Yeah, but the red cap is the cap of liberty. If you think about it, Peter, I don't remember what's the cult name, the Fearic hat or something like that.
Yeah, that Tracy Twyman talks about.
Yeah.
Fearic.
Yeah. But it's the liberty cap.
Right. But it was the liberty cap from the French Revolution.
Uh-huh.
And the French Revolution is when the globalists decided that capitalism was good for the continent of America because it was unconquered, and you needed a capitalist spirit in order to be able to take advantage of all of the natural resources. But that Europe was already basically settled and organized, and what you really needed over there was socialism. So you moved from life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which was changed from life, liberty, and property by John Locke and Common Sense, I think. And then when they did
the French Revolution,
which was orchestrated by Jacob Weishaupt and Meyer Rothschild. Then they changed the branding to liberty, fraternity, liberty, equality, fraternity, liberty, egalitarianism, and brotherhood, which is more aligned with socialism. So life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is capitalist, liberty, equality, fraternity is socialist.
Mm-hmm.
So they changed the branding in the next revolution.
Yes. I'm saying he took the hat and inverted its meaning and stole it back from them.
Yes, he culture jammed it.
Yeah.
But I still think that the color red is a color that's associated with bad things, and I would like to nominate a color choice. I mean, it's not an accident that Hillary Clinton was supposed to be wearing purple in her inauguration.
Right.
So
Right. Well, Ollie's going with orange. I'm good with orange.
I like Ollie's orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is something that was brought up somewhere else where the three of us alert this individualism versus collectivism messaging. And I don't think that's effective on a large scale. Just running through the true believer filter. Mm-hmm. There's certain people that don't want to be individuals. Like, this is, Lauren, your experience for how many years of your life where you're saying, like, I just went along with whatever everybody else around me said. I just want to be accepted. And I think there's a ton of that. Yeah. And so I think that idea is scary to a lot of people. And the way that the left always spins it is what they really mean is you're on your own.
Well,
and put it in a negative way.
To that point, there's like this cluster of conservatives who think that, like, you should be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Sure, no one's, that's fine. But at the same time, everyone's kind of on their own little island. And so, like, if an account gets banned, or if there's no, like, unified messaging or whatever, and that's how the left, like, I'm not saying we should just repeat talking points back and forth at each other or anything like that, like, not at all, but, like, there needs to be more collaborating and, like, discussion, and I've got your back, man. Like, oh, they suspended so and so, like, let's raise some hell about it, and not just be like, oh, well, at least it wasn't me, because guess what, it'll be you next. You'll think it won't be you, it'll be you next. But there is a little bit of that, like, it's almost like, I mean, I saw people, like, after I got banned on Twitter, like, they're like people are, like, celebrating it or whatever. I'm like, you know what, like, do you not have anything better to do than to, like, celebrate someone you don't know getting banned off Twitter? Like, I made another one, it's fine, I'm not worried about it. Like, but there are literally people that, like, that's all that matters to them. It's like, I don't know where I was going with that. I'm just ranting.
Well, no, but I think you're correct. Those people, their entire lives revolve around, quote unquote, owning people. That's what they want to do. They want to abuse people online, and that's because their framework for looking at the world is that thing that they're holding in their hand. It's that screen, that magic rectangle that they're looking at. But to Tracy's point, I mean, Tim Pool actually, brings this up all the time, which is like, why aren't we negotiating with each other and trying to figure out solutions to these things instead of going at each other, because that's what we wind up doing. I don't think there's been any compromises in Congress that I mean, major ones that I can think of in at least 12 years, maybe longer than that.
That's a very Tim Pool thing to say.
I give him a lot of credit.
He's a very smart guy, but, like, his loyalty to riding that fence is...
That's his brand. I get it. He's come a really long way from starting out biz like a hardcore Occupy guy that was there to document it because he didn't think the right story was going to get out, to where he is now voting for Trump and living in the woods of Missouri. Give him a little bit of time. This time next year, he'll be on here talking to us about satanic pedophile cults.
That's true. It is, like, you start, like, eking down the hill, and then, like, you pick up speed, and you're like, oh shit, like, here we go.
Yeah, he's actually moving up the pyramid. That's what he's doing.
That's what he's doing. But I think one of the things that, Lauren, you're talking, like, this individualism thing gets the right in trouble because everybody stakes out their little claim and then they get in protection mode. But one of the things that's been very reassuring to me through this whole post-election thing is seeing that those people that were on those islands were willing to all jump onto one island. And it's been specialization has come to the fore. Because I like to think that the right cares a little bit more about economics and understands that, where it's like, oh, Ali's really good at getting bodies on the street. He gets thrown at that. Lauren, you're awesome at going and digging for stuff. You do this. No, seriously, it's giving everybody props for what they're good at and saying, you guys all go out. This is our army. You're divided into specialization units. Go kick ass.
Well, and it's interesting how people who aren't willing to, like, get on board, they stick out like a sore thumb, and everyone's just like, nobody has any time for it right now, which I think is pretty awesome. Like, you're either on board or just get the hell out of the way because we got, like, a country to save. It's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, it used to be rhetoric. It's not rhetoric anymore. Yeah, we all do what we can. You know, Ali has been in a different city every day for like the last 3 weeks. It's like, you know, he's leaving it all on the field, and anybody who's being critical of anything that he's doing right now isn't paying attention.
Well, it's just not helpful.
Right.
Well, like he like has a past. He got in trouble like a decade and a half ago, and people bring that up. I'm like, man, 2 years ago, I was the worst. Like, again, like we can't demonize people for like screwing up and then growing from that. Like that's
right. And Ali talks about that. I mean, Ali got in the crosshairs of a guy who's a Democratic operator who was sentenced to prison for bombing. He was known as the Speedway Bomber, and was working for the DNC during the Hillary Clinton election.
what's his
And
name?
Brent Kimberlin.
Right.
And there's a whole book on him. Wait, here, I'll go get it. You know, Ali is in his crosshairs, and he's one of these guys like Bob Creamer, who's another Democratic
I know him.
operative, and so a lot of the attacks on Ali that come from the social media are coming out of those operations. You know, they have bodies in front of computers that are doing nothing except causing problems for these people.
Right.
So
Yeah. And it's funny, I'm already getting attacked on Twitter for talking about the National Lawyers Guild.
Means you're doing it right.
Yeah. Oh, they're just pro bono legal observers, this lady tells me. They show up when available if they get a heads up that a protest might inspire legal rights abuses. It's not a coordinated left-wing support function. Okay.
the National Lawyers Guild.
Yeah, she's telling me it's not a coordinated support function for the left, and it's...
I'll tell you, slap them with a sure Jan and leave.
Yeah.
Here's the book on Kimberlin.
All right, we'll add it to the site.
All right,
Okay.
we'll add it to the site.
But yeah, don't tell me that I haven't seen with my own eyes these things. I went down to the DNC in Philadelphia. I've probably told the story 100 times already on here. And on my train ride down, in the car with me, there's a bunch of National Lawyers Guild guys. I've been to protests on both sides of the aisle, and I've never once seen those people show up at a right-leaning protest. They're not running around with the Proud Boys. I'll tell you that much. There's not a bunch of National Lawyers Guild guys that are ready to go to fight for their rights, their First Amendment right to protest. No. So
Well, that's
spare
because
me.
because they know that people like Soros have put money into funds that are there specifically to pay the attorneys to go do that stuff. So, if I don't know if it would be the National Lawyers Guild or something organized by somebody like Robert Barnes or Tom Fenton, but it probably would. If you had a billionaire who tapped one of those guys on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Mark Randanza," another one, right?
Right.
If somebody
Or
came
like
to,
Ron Coleman.
if Ron Coleman, if somebody came to one of those guys and said, "Here's a fund of $10 million. I want you to organize lawyers to go bail out the Proud Boys if they ever get in trouble," those lawyers, there would be a bunch of lawyers with, magenta colored hats on or something that would show up that would do that. But one of my critiques of the right has been, for as long as I've been paying attention to politics, which isn't that long, it's really only 10 years, is that we don't spend money on stuff like that. And this is what Ali is screaming at Ronna McDaniel. Ronna, what's her name?
I don't like her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's Romney's.
Romney.
She's Romney's niece.
Yeah.
So
Great.
And
Right.
the way to reverse the lefty activist judges is to get them voted out of office if they're voted in, or if they're appointed, replace them by.
I mean, that's one of the things that President Trump has, his legacy is going to last for a while, is what he's done in the courts.
We hope so. I listened
yeah.
to Robert Barnes. I don't know if you follow Robert Barnes, Lauren, the attorney. I mean, he's been yelling about how they should never have taken the list from the Federalist Society. Like, those guys can't be trusted to actually have a backbone when it comes to it. And a lot of the Republican judges that have dismissed the cases, the election-related cases, are Federalist Society list judges. It's like that was the wrong list to go with, guys. Sorry to tell you. But it's frustrating as hell because there's so many wolves in the Republican clothing. The Proud Boys are not a psyop.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
I've known Gavin McGinnis since 2013. I watched him create that thing and started as a joke.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, our people are going out and getting beaten up because they're kind of like old veteran types and maybe a few gamers mixed in. Maybe we should show up and just be there. If punches start flying, we'll punch back. Never punch first, but always hit last.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a couple of Proud Boys. Like, they're 100% real.
Yeah, so do I. But it's like the same thing with the National Lawyers Guild. Like the left has their thugs. That's what Brett Kimberlin is. He's their guy that's willing to do, allegedly bombing.
So here's the thing. I mean, that's not to say that organizations like the Proud Boys couldn't get co-opted, but that's the MO, right? The MO is that you take true believers, and I think that the Proud Boys are true believers.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, Enrique Terrio is a friend of mine. And, one of the things that we had a long discussion about is that they've made a joke out of initiation. It's literally a bar joke, which is that in order to get to the first degree in Proud Boys, you have to name, I think, 5. Are you holding up 5? You have to name 5 common breakfast cereals while people are punching you. So, okay. So
yeah.
So they do a countdown, and then and then everybody around you starts punching you. And while they're punching you, you have to name 5 breakfast cereals. And the faster you can name the 5 breakfast cereals, the faster they will stop punching you. And that's a funny joke, but it doesn't teach a life lesson. The people who are doing initiation ceremonies for the Masons or for a college fraternity, they're actually trying, according to MS7, Proud Boys are equal.
Deborah,
Keep going, Peter.
Stop watching the news, dude.
Yeah.
No, I think she's saying that just like that's how and he's right.
Okay.
They'll slander any conservative group and yep. So sorry, Peter, keep going.
So the point is that groups can get compromised.
Yes.
Charlie Kirk can start Turning Point USA, and somebody could come in who's writing a big enough check and steer them in the direction that they want them to go in. That's usually what happens, And if you read the book, The True Believer, then you'll understand what the mechanics are, because that's what the book is about.
All right. Well, does anybody have any questions? Because we've been at this for almost 2 hours.
Dang,
So
really?
throw it to the comments.
Yeah.
Or is there anything else you would like to talk about, Lauren, since you're our guest around here?
Oh, Lord. Nothing that wouldn't take another hour or so.
But you're going to drop your new video as soon as it's finished rendering?
Yeah, I got to render it after this. And I'll put it up on the YouTubes and the other places. So,
Excellent. And I think your link tree has been shared a bunch of times in here, so everybody should have it. And if not, I'll throw it in the description so that you can be sure to like and subscribe to Lauren's channel so that when that video drops, you'll be the first one to get it.
yay.
And bookmark
And
her
when my
link
Twitter
tree.
gets banned- when my Twitter gets banned, I'll just update the link so you can know where my new Twitter is. So, yay.
Yeah, link tree is good.
It worked out pretty well.
Yep. Your branding, you've got good branding. I guess George Webb lost his Twitter yesterday, and he was trying to rebuild a new one today, and he picked George W. and then 9 random numbers. I mean, I don't know if it's an IP number for some server in Serbia, and he thinks he's being clever or whatever it is, but don't do that, George. You can change your handle after you've created the new account, so change it to something that makes sense.
Yeah, what is your YouTube channel?
It's L is for the way.
L is for the way.
Because you can't use the word bitch on YouTube in your username. So.
And I'll throw a link to it.
No, George Webb 123 would have been a funny name that everybody would have remembered. But
Well, I was some bitch I knew, and now I'm just some bitch I know too. We'll start numbering them. It's fine.
And is that a nod to that song that came out a couple of years ago? Somebody that I used to know.
So I actually made the account that got banned. I made it like back in like December of 2011 because I wanted to have a Twitter, and I was like, "This is hilarious. I'll be some bitch I know." And then I never tweeted again. So then I like wanted to log on to Twitter a couple years ago when I like started like waking up because I just wanted to talk to people that agreed with what I said. And I was like posting stuff on Facebook, and then like my aunt would get in a fight with like my childhood best friend, and then like my teacher from fourth grade. It was like hell on earth. So I was like, I just, I'll go somewhere where I can just like post anonymously into the void. And that's what I did for about a year. And then like in March, I started sharing research, and then here we are.
Here we are.
It's crazy.
All righty then. Well, thanks, Lauren, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
It was fun. All right.
Yeah.
I'll see you later, Tracy.
All right. Goodbye, Peter. And everybody, if you're out there, check out the new site and let us know what you hate about it.
I'm sure they will. I'm
I
sure
know
they
they
will.
And I'll answer all your bitchy comments, too.
Yeah. Bitch
Me
seems
too.
to be the watchword today.
It is.
All right.
It is. But thank you very much, Lauren. And I can't wait to see your video when it drops in a little while.
Yep.
Just a
Well, in
bit.
the words of NWA, a bitch is a bitch.